Welcome to Season 4 of Outstanding Women Leaders, Witty and Wise Conversations. I'm your host, Katie L. Leeds, founder and chief owl at Outstanding Women Leaders, Owl Professional Coaching, an organization dedicated to empowering women leaders. Owl is on a mission to host 100 million witty and wise conversations that disrupt the way leaders think and inspire you to disrupt business as usual in your brain. This disruption begins with a set of rules to guide our conversation today. Number 1, nobody gets to be wrong. Number 2, nobody gets to be right. Number 3, everybody gets to be vulnerable. And my favorite is number 4, everything is included. If your child walks in, if my dog barks, we do not edit here. This conversation is exactly what it needs to be in this moment in time. We've asked our guests to join us via video to allow us to create authentic connection. Eyes are the window to the soul. You will be seen here. You will be heard. There's space for you. When this conversation comes to a close, I will ask our guests 3 questions. If you've tuned in before, you know what they are. And if you haven't, you don't want to miss them. But enough about me. Today, I am excited to welcome outstanding women leader, Julia Hurley from Knoxville, Tennessee. Welcome.
Woo. Knox Vegas. Welcome.
Vegas. It's funny because my hometown is Sterling. I call it Stir Vegas. And you can actually go into any bar and you can gamble at a slot machine in Sterling, Illinois. Yep.
Interesting. Okay, then.
And then they have their own little like shacks, like Susie Slots, that you can go into, and they serve alcohol there like real cheap.
Susie Slots. Sounds
Susie
like
Slots. The only thing stripping there is hopefully money from people's wallets.
They're stripping you of your hopes and dreams one paycheck at a time.
That is a way better answer. Yes. Julia is a dedicated elected official, a realtor, business consultant, a podcast host at Connect the Knox, and the author of Unauthorized Success, Politically Incorrect Guide to Women's Success. I can't wait to learn all about her, but even beyond all of these really cool things that Julia's done in real estate and writing, she's also raised a child at the age of 15, which is something for me that hits home. So Sterling, back to Stir Vegas, we had the highest teen pregnancy rate per capita in the state of Illinois when I was in high school.
Wow.
I was so scared to have sex. Because, like in Mean Girls, you'll get gonorrhea and die. And a lot of
also a possibility.
Also a possibility. And my class of 8th grade class was the first one to have a girl get pregnant. And then the class below me, there was a girl in 7th grade that got pregnant. And my cousin's wife, who, may she rest in peace, she passed away from COVID last year. She was a teen mom as well at 15. And her son is an amazing kid, and she was an amazing mother. And I know you have an amazing journey as well. So 15, God gives you a baby.
Yes.
So enough about me. Let's hear all about your story.
Yeah. So 15, God gave me the choice of a baby. And, I feel like that it's one of those situations where at 15, you have absolutely no idea what ramifications your choices are going to give you. And the unfortunate situation for kids at that age today are social media. And it's always present. You are always involved in somebody's business 200% of your day. And at any age, all of your entire life is sprawled out. So there's no privacy for your own decisions, honestly and truly. If something happens, the entire world knows about it, whether you want them to or not. But when I was 15, I had that choice. And at the time, I was the only girl who had gotten pregnant in the high school that chose to keep their child.
Wow.
So, there was a lot of pregnancies, actually, oddly, during that same year. And I just was like, well, it is what it is. Some of the worst and best sayings, like, it is what it is. So here we go on a different journey. So, at 15, I had hopes and dreams of being a big marketing executive in downtown New York City, and I was going to get out of this small town of like 800 people with this unincorporated city, and we had one blinking red light, one gas station, and a Hardee's. That was exciting. Bring back blueberry muffins. Anyway, so that was it. That's how I grew up, and that seemed to be just kind of the next phase, I guess, at 15. And I was like, well, here we go. I can make something out of this or let it define me. And I just moved on with my life. I dropped out of high school, went to private school, like private coaching into high school. There was a guy that would do teen pregnancy homeschooling. And so then I went back my senior year and graduated from that same high school with my class. But my grades improved, my focus improved. It was very interesting. All of the things that I had gotten myself into, I got myself quickly out of, which is probably the opposite problem and opposite opportunity that people that age take if that situation presents itself. So I saw it as a motivational way to be responsible for someone else's well-being, I guess is a good way. So as an adult, I have put that back on myself, type 1 Enneagram. So that's real obvious. I need public responsibility of other people to succeed, which led me into politics later on in life. It's something that the pressure of performing properly in public, lots of P's in there, is something that pushed me forward throughout my entire life. So starting at 15, that was something that I was like, well, now I'm responsible for someone else's outcome. I better get better get it together. So that's what I did. I went to a small private college. I played tennis there. So I actually had a career, you know what I'm saying? I had a real college career. It wasn't where I wanted to go. It wasn't my first choice, but it was the local choice. And it was just about an hour outside of where I lived. And I joined the tennis team because it was a D3 college and you could just walk on to sports. And in fact, I actually ended up being very good at it. My daughter was at all my tennis matches. So, it's a situation where you can do whatever you want to do, but you really have to want to do it. And it's a story that a lot of people tell, but they don't tell all the story. So it's like, you hear it from motivational speakers all the time. You can be whatever you want to be. Just change your mindset. They say that, just change your mindset. Just get focused. What they don't say is get focused, get hungry, don't sleep, don't eat, double down. If you have 24 hours in a day, you better make sure yours are 48. There's nothing like true bootstrapping, I guess is a good way to put it. A lot of you hear it from people. I pulled myself up by the bootstraps. Yeah, we all did though. Except when you really have to do it, you understand what it means. So I graduated college, $100,000 in debt. Didn't get a scholarship, Here we are, $100,000 in debt with a 10-year-old.
Wow.
What are you gonna do? So you're going to go get a job. And I'm just like any other elder millennial out there. Those student loan debts absolutely destroyed my credit, destroyed any ability for me to move forward in my early 20s. And I just kept working. I worked several different jobs. I ended up at Hooters of America, which I have been judged for 20 years. I'm now 41 years old. And sometimes that's the first word out of people's mouth. Aren't you that Hooters girl that got elected? Yes, that's me. I'm 41 now. Thank you very much for I'm 41 years old.
Second. Aren't you that Hooters girl that got elected? I guess like for the men, it's like, aren't you that wrestler that got elected? Or are you that actor that got elected? So interesting that, of course.
First girl that got elected. Yes, that is me. I am now a grown ass woman. I'm midlife now, but yes, thank you for reminiscing about my good old days when I starved myself to death and worked 18-hour days. Really appreciate that. That's important to you. So it is what it is. But yeah, so I worked at Hooters of America for a very long time, about 6 years into that, made a lot of connections that way here locally where I'm at in Knoxville. So at that time, the Knoxville, Tennessee Hooters had 5 of the top 10 ESPN calendar girls on staff. I mean, I, honest to God, cannot recall a time in Knoxville where there have been more physically attractive, natural beauty women ever created. And I look back on those days and I'm like, how did I even make the cut to work at this location? Because, oh God, those women were beautiful. They were stunning creatures inside and out. They were beautiful people. And Hooters of America gave me the opportunity to manage them. So not a restaurant manager, I actually managed the girls. So I was the only mom, so I was like, well, here we go. I've got a kid. I'll be mom to kids my own age. It's totally fine. So we traveled the country with the girls and made sure that they were treated properly, which was always an interesting thing to experience. But during that time, my time, effort, energy, and focus was 100% on gaining the contacts that were available to me at that time. So if we were at a PGA tour, I was taking business cards. Like, what do you do? Where are you at? And I kept it in a binder. And I was only paid the promotional wage to be there. Of course, I needed to be back in my hotel doing the things that I needed to do. So the girls would do all the things, they would come out of events like that with $10,000, $15,000, and I would come out of there with an $800 check. And that's fine because I came out with a book of contacts, did it with, NASCAR events and things along that line. I made a lot of good contacts through that, but quickly realized when I was about 25 that for as fun as that was and could have been quite lucrative later on in life, it was not what I wanted to do forever. So at 25, my daughter was 10, and it was just time. It was time to move on to something else. It was a good period in our life. I was treated well. My daughter was treated very well by Hooters. I mean, I have never had a better experience, that I was treated with more respect and my daughter was treated with the utmost respect than I had ever been treated at Hooters of America. So that's a story that's in and of itself speaks volumes for people in general. That was a fantastic experience to have. And then after that, I kind of just went from job to job. So I did student loan. I worked for a student loan company. I worked for a bank. That was awful. And yet my daughter's a banker. She loves banking. I have no idea how this happened. She's 25 now. She loves the banking industry. She's a banker. I absolutely hated the year that I spent in banking. Made a lot of contacts. Did not love the 9 to 5. Needed a little more control over my life. So took a year off during that time and kind of just traveled. I was calling all the people on those business cards. What do you got for me? What can we do? Is there anything available? Do you have anything that I can do? Do you have anything that I can open? Do you have anything that I can work on? What do you need? Promotions, help, marketing, all the things that I wanted to do anyway, and did not get the opportunity to go to New York and go to the schools that I wanted to and get the jobs that I wanted. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get them either way. So I started making the calls, started working kind of every Miami, Atlanta. I started working some NASCAR stuff. I mean, it was a very interesting time in my life where the same people that I had met on all the Hooters tours are the same people who were now returning my calls and saying, yeah, sure, come on, we'll get you something. So during that NASCAR time, I went to a sports and licensing tailgating show in Las Vegas and saw all of the new products that had been made without logos. So none of them were logoed. They were pitching the licensing companies themselves to create their prototypes for them and basically sell them. So at that time, I created with a friend of mine, HGG Distribution, which no longer exists. And we created what we called the SEC Grill Topper, which was a cast iron space that you could put your burger, steak, or hamburger on that would put your collegiate logo into, and as you seared it. So that actually became a thing. And then we started picking up other products. That we picked up grills, we picked up Rolexes. We started picking up every Southeastern college, which at the time there were only 10, and licensing those. And so I started getting into the licensing thing and the distribution and the storage and the warehousing. It was a very interesting time to create something that failed miserably due to Chinese New Year, which I was not prepared for. And thanks again to all the connections I made at Hooters. I had gone to all of, alumni halls and all the goodies stores and all the people that were through those same connections. They signed purchase agreements. Yeah, we'll get your stuff. We'll get it out. But you needed to get it out by February, March. Chinese New Year in January shut everything down. I did not deliver my goods on time. So that was very interesting. They were still purchased, but they were discounted at such a rate that I was not profitable. And I was like, well, learn that lesson. Check that off the list. So
that is your first entrepreneur venture then that you had within that business. I always say success is a terrible teacher. My first business was in the black every single month.
Oh, wow.
And
good for you.
Thank you. And we moved to a 12,000 square foot location, and we did not plan to break even in the very first month we were there, and we were in the black again. And so in January of 2020, when I launched this business, I just thought I would be in the black every month. So I had like an existential crisis of like, well, I thought the pandemic hit. So back to the Chinese and their New Year. And I lived on the East Coast where we were hit very hard. And you did, right? My councilman died. And Michael Yoon had been there for 30 plus years. He was Chinese. He went to the Chinese New Year. And I don't actually know if that's where he got it, but he died in March. And it's great to have failure on your first prototype because you're like, okay, that didn't work, but now I know what would work and I can do it again. And it's good to have success, but man, you feel like terrible when you're not successful and you're dipping your toe into some big stuff. You're talking about licensing, you're talking about intellectual property. I bet you learned a lot of really good stuff in that failure.
I have learned a lot in just 20 years. And I'll say 20 years because that's how long I've actually been. I graduated college at 20. So 20 years I've been in, and I put this in quotations, business. You are a business. Your face is a business. Your name is a business. Your personality is a business. I've been in business 20 years and it's been, it's an experience to say the least. So
if you were to give us like 2 lessons that you learned in that failed business, what are those 2 big takeaways that you had?
So that's a great question. And that's actually why I wrote this book. And one of the two major lessons during that time are know who you are, know your boundaries and stick to them. So that's one thing. Know who you are, stick to your boundaries, because what you'll do in that time frame as a young, impressionable female in a male-dominated industry, also a young single mother, you have no support system. There's nothing there. No one's coming to save you. It's you. And learning failure on your own is extra special. But learning failure when you're responsible for someone else and know that you failed and keeping a positive outlook and a positive mindset and keeping your health, that is a challenge. That is a challenge that so many women face every day and think they're alone doing it. They are not alone. They are not alone. And so part of that's about this book. So just knowing your boundaries and sticking to them is very important. And understanding how business works, taking any business courses online that you can, understanding how accounting works is very valuable information. I would say, honestly, the best thing I ever learned was how to keep my own books. I don't have to do that now. But if you know how to do it, you know how to watch your money and manage your money properly. And I think that is something that we don't teach kids anymore in general, period. We sure don't teach it in business class.
I agree. So, and the first thing that a lot of small business owners will do is find someone to do their taxes for them. And I have to say, again, back to the first business, success is a terrible teacher. I had a CPA. I did my own QuickBooks. I did my own monthly bookkeeping, but I had a CPA. Cutting my teeth on being the CPA for the second business I had was different. Yeah. And you are very aware of every dime that moves. And for someone diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 39, because he didn't follow us girls as ADHD back then, I was failing math in first grade though, because I was putting 0 and 1 for all my answers. It turns out I didn't really like math that was, building things like algebra but I love a good profit and loss sheet. Oh man, do I love yes, like I love that stuff. And I always thought math was not for me. When I had the first business, I immediately hired a CPA. I'm terrible at math. I don't like math. Well, it turns out math numbers are actually really fun when it's your own money.
When you learn money and manage it, you're like, this is extremely interesting. I want to keep doing this.
Yes. And then you start to understand that money is a tool. And it's, I know a lot of people like to talk about money as like an energy or whatever. I'm like, it's a tool so that I can have the energies to do the things I want. Or people talk about their bad relationship with money. Like, man, I don't want to be in a relationship with a tool. Like a hammer nails something and it puts a house together. I don't have a relationship with a hammer, right? Why would I have a relationship with money, which is a tool to, buy a house? It's a tool I just paid off my student loans, December of 2023. Yes. Right before my 40th birthday, I felt so accomplished. I did not have
millennial debt. Woo!
Yes. I did not have $100K. I did play tennis in college too, but I got paid for it. Yeah. And I will tell you the reason I was so scared about having sex in high school is because I'm like, but I want to play tennis in college. I like so crazy. I knew nothing about you until I love bringing like randomly meeting people on this podcast and be like, oh my gosh, we have so many synergies.
Good.
So back to you. So your first business fails, then what?
Miserable. It was great. It was just like this an explosion. It was so fast, like bye, Julia. You know, it was fantastic. It was beautiful. It just went out with style, just lost it all, which was great. It was super great. No pressure, no pressure. So I took a year off.
How do you not have a mental breakdown? Like you've put all your eggs in this basket.
Oh, I did.
Like,
I took a year off. Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely had a mental breakdown. I took a year off, took out some more loans. You got to live somewhere. Got to pay for stuff somewhere. Maxed out a bunch of credit cards. So here we go. And I'm just in that situation where I'm like, I'm just not sure who I need to be anymore. You know what? And you never really actually find that out. So just word to the wise, I'm 41, still don't know. So that's a good
we'll
one.
We'll have to talk offline.
Know.
I'll help you with that. Go on.
Yeah. Still don't know where I'm supposed to go, but this is leading me somewhere. So it's very exciting. But you kind of, you self-reflect a lot on your failures and you let it consume you if you're not careful. And when you're alone and you don't have a partner, you don't have a family that's got a good support system, your business partners aren't a support system. Business is business. Yeah, that's not personal. Business is business. They're not your support system. And you've got a kid and you're broke. I mean, what are you going to do? So you just have what you have. So you double down, you focus on your family, you do the things that you need to do for them, you refocus your energy and your effort and your time, and then you get back to work. So I moved everything back home, stopped the traveling, stopped asking other people for opportunities, and said, how can I create my own opportunity? I've got to do something here. So I've got to do something here. I'm exhausted. I'm 26 years old, 27 years old. I am tired of traveling. I am tired of relying on other people to give me something. What am I going to do here where I'm going to take control of this? So I'm home voting in the 2008 election, and we're in line. And that was such a controversial election that year. I mean, it was the talk of the entire world.
I was a history teacher and government teacher during that time.
Lord. I bet you got it from all ends.
I was in Chicago. So my poor little Republican high school students maybe got it in that end. You know, we all went and rallied for Obama down in Chicago because that was his hometown. But it was quite, I mean, the state of Illinois outside of Chicago is very red. So it was, and then I got to teach in the next election after that. Yes. Wild time in 2008.
2008 was insane. Honestly, everybody thinks that the Trump election was bad. Like that was cakewalk compared to the Obama one. 2008 was rough. And so I was just standing in line. I mean, the line to vote in my precinct was wrapped around the building. We never experienced that. My entire lifetime, never experienced that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, whatever it was, people were out voting, and there was a guy behind me. And he had one of those voices that you just, you know, I'm on the spectrum, sounds, textures, being overwhelmed. It really gets to me. And I'd been in line for about an hour and this guy's voice behind me was just, and I finally just turned around and I said, sir, I don't know who you are, but your voice, it's just, you know, it's just there. And I don't even know what you're talking about. I think you're just talking to talk. And we're all going to be here for an hour and you're right behind me. Would you like to like switch places? I'm not trying to be rude. And I'm never rude when I say it. I'm always saying, please understand where I'm coming from at this, but this is a situational noise thing. I don't have earbuds. Could we just, you know, tone that down a bit? And instead of asking me any questions or anything, and of course let's rewind, we're 12 years ago, so I was very attractive. Obviously I was a Hooters girl, so I'm very young and very attractive. I'm not going to say that I wasn't, but this guy mouths off to me and looks me up and down, makes an inappropriate physical comment, and was just very rude. Let's just put it that it was just very rude. And I just turned around. I got up to the voting poll I waited for him to say his name. I took note of his name. And it just so happened to be the Democrat opponent that I picked my Republican ballot up and beat his ass in his own hometown after 18 years consecutive election, that next election. So when I found out who he was after the 08 election, I made it my mission to take his seat.
I have chills as you're talking. Like,
Yeah.
What a burn.
Yeah. I was like, all right, old man, let's do this. And it gave me something new to focus on. So there was that. I was like, something new to focus on, something energy, effort, time to give. So I was like, all right, let's go. Let's go. So during the 2010 elections, that was midterm elections, the state of Tennessee had never had a Republican majority in the history of the state of Tennessee. And I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, Tennessee's always been fiscally conservative. So our Democrats were Blue Dog Democrats. If people aren't familiar with politics, look it up. But Blue Dog Democrats are very fiscally conservative. And I'm very fiscally conservative. It's just money is money. You know, you need it to make the world go round. So the leadership we had was great. I just didn't like this guy. I personally did not like this man, and it was going to do whatever it took to get him out of office. And I did, and I won. And the area that I won in represented less than 1% of the total vote of that entire district. So I beat him literally in his own backyard and had never stepped foot in that county before I picked up a petition to run.
So you literally ran out of spite.
Yes. Yes. So during that same time, I picked up a ballot to run as a Republican. Now, mind you, during college, I founded the College Republicans, Fayetteville College. I volunteered on a few campaigns here and there where I could. I learned a lot about it, not as much as I probably needed to know before this happened. During that time, the Republican Party refused to endorse me for the seat. I was primaried. I won the primary. Nobody wanted me to win the primary. Won the primary. My voters wanted me to win, so that was a bonus. But the Republican Party refused to endorse me for the seat. The exact words to me were, well, it would be really great if you grew up a little, got a little more experience. And I believe the exact comment to me at that time was, he's deserved his vested retirement. Why don't you wait until next term? In which case, that just pissed me off more. So I was like, huh, okay.
And yeah, this is politics. And no one ever says to a man, you know, you should grow up a little bit more before you run.
Yeah. And they should.
Well, their brains take a little longer to develop. So yeah, they really should. Wow.
Yeah. So that was fun. I spent the entire year door knocking, which was something that I do as a real estate agent. So literally, truly, it is what it is. You just get used to doing the same thing over and over again, making phone calls, showing up at events, networking, door knocking, asking for votes, asking for real estate listings. Nothing changes. The world doesn't change. People don't change. I was spit on. I've had hot coffee thrown on me. I've been called everything but a white person. You name it. My daughter was talked to like she was a dog, from both parties, because I was a single female who had a baby at 15 because I worked at Hooters, and I have obviously gotten everything wrong in my life. So I should have been the poster child for pro-life, everything. And both sides of the aisle attacked me. I won anyway. So whatever. But that was an interesting year. The state of Tennessee flipped power for the first time in 150 years. So the Republicans had control of the state of Tennessee. So they were all on pins and needles, making sure they did everything right. And so, of course, everything you did was scrutinized. And if you just Google me or check out my Wikipedia page, you can see all that had to offer. It was very exciting.
I can't wait to now dive in. My design, I'm a researcher. I can't wait to hear all about it. And also, for those listening that don't know, they're like, what do you mean that Tennessee wasn't Republican? So the Democrats in the South had a stronghold for a really long time. I imagine that there are people that rolled over in their graves and a Republican Party took control in Tennessee, and it's not what we think of as traditionally being that conservative. So, wow.
Yeah, there was one man, Jimmy Nafee, out of Memphis, who they called him the Nafee Nine. Jimmy Nafee ran as speaker for 32 consecutive years as the Tennessee House Speaker. He was very powerful. He was very intelligent, and he was very loving and kind. And I think that for as poorly, and I will say this, as poorly as I was treated by the Democrat and Republican Party, that Jimmy Nafee was one of the first people to greet me and be kind to me and offer me help. And he even gave me a gold-plated Robert's Rules of Order book as a welcome gift because I had taken out one of his biggest supporters, one of his biggest yes votes. And he was like, that's impressive. Like, I don't know who you are, but welcome. So, he
sounds like a man that knows how to be a politician.
He was a good politician. He was defeated after that, which was unfortunate because he, honest to God, was somebody who worked both sides of the aisle. So I missed him. I miss him in politics today. But Tennessee is true right now. It's like 95% red. So it's just kind of where it's at. But that was the starting point of turning Tennessee red, which is now what everyone has been attracting to Tennessee for our lower taxes, no death tax, no hall income tax, no state income tax. All the rules and regulations we put into place back in 2010 are the reason that I have a successful real estate business today. So would I redo my election for as bad as that was for 2 years? Absolutely, 100%. I would do it again.
And are you still in politics? Do you still hold a seat?
No, I retired. Woo! 10 years.
Woo!
So after State House.
Wait, time out.
Yeah.
A politician that retires?
Oh yeah, I'm girl. No.
I thought you were supposed to die in that office.
No, didn't pay enough to die in that office. There is no.
Well,
no.
Tell that to Nancy Pelosi because she sure made a lot of money in office. But yes,
well,
I get state is a little different.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I should say in Illinois, I say that. Tell that to Lisa Madigan because people make. Oh my God, the same person has been cited. Jesse, tell that to Jesse White. I don't know how he's still alive. Like when I was teaching government, I'm like, how are the same people in high school that I voted for in office? How are those people still? And they were old then. Like, is Dick Durbin still around? Like, how are these people? Sorry, I digress. So you, as a woman,
baby boomers, they never die.
No, they never die, right?
They never die.
And they get great legislation for themselves. So they're not, they got great health care. They're not going anywhere, damn it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've made our student loan debt situation so bad that millennials can't work themselves out of their own debt. So we can't pay attention to what anybody else is doing because we're so poor. And they made us that way and they stand on our necks to get exactly what they want and where they are. So good for them for figuring the system out. But it's definitely going to hurt the millennials in the next generation, for sure.
Absolutely. And kudos to you for not being this lifetime politician. Money aside, sounds like you weren't getting kickbacks either. So you were just doing politics wrong.
I was doing politics wrong. I absolutely was. And I will stand on that and do it again. That's totally fine.
I've always felt we need to have NASCAR jackets on all of these politicians that have the logos of the people that are donating to them. And
100%.
Also term limits. So thank you, George Washington, for honoring a term limit that didn't exist by simply just stepping away when it was time.
Actually, term limits exist. We just got rid of them.
Oh, Tennessee had, so every state's different. I just moved here 3 months ago.
The whole country. The whole country, the Constitution was written the same for every state. And the people decided they wanted more power and didn't realize they actually had the power. And they gave it to the government. They chose to do that. So at the constitutional level, it was written that your president had to come from your Senate had to come from your U.S. rep had to come from your state Senate had to come from your state rep had to come from your local base. And it was appointed, and you could only serve 2 terms in each position, and you either left or you moved up. And that was it. So at the very base level, a city councilman or an alderman or whatever they were back in the good old days, the people elected that person. That person served 2 years, 2 terms, or whatever that year term was, 2 terms. They were either promoted to the next one by their peers or they weren't. And that's the end of it. And they had to start over from the bottom. So you either learned how to play that game properly and learned how to serve your constituency, or you never got elected at the bottom. People do not realize they used to have all the power. And now what they've done is convince themselves that they're going to do the correct research on these Congress people and these presidents, and they know what they need to know, and they're going to vote the correct way. When honestly, at the basic level of human nature, we don't even do our own P&L statements. So what do we know? So I don't know.
That's right. We just hand a bag full of receipts to our accountant and then have them figure it out.
We just hand our votes off to people that promised us something, and the results the same.
Yeah. So where did real estate fall? Did you get into real estate while you were in office? How did that work for you?
Good question. So after I lost the 2010 election or 2012 re-election to a Democrat in my Republican primary, that's fun.
You didn't retire. You lost an election. Got it.
Yeah, lost an election. And then took that whole year to decide what I wanted to do and got my real estate license and ran for state executive committee. So state executive committee for every single state, if no one knows what those people are. So again, should. Your state executive committee are a female and a male of each party that coincides with your state Senate seat. So wherever your senators are is where your state executive committee members are. Those are the same gerrymandered lines, and each party has a female and a male that represents them for that Senate district. So they create the fundraisers, the law, the rules, the contracts, the conversations. They choose the pundits. They choose the people who can and cannot run on the ballot. They choose what a vested and vetted person are. Your state executive committee rules your party. That is your party influence. That is your party rule. So I ran for state executive committee to change the rule on who determines what a Republican is when they put their name on a ballot. The gentleman gentleman's a loose term. The man that beat me in my election by 600 votes for re-election had been chairman of the Roane County Democrat Party and put his name on as a Republican because in the past, at some point, he had voted Republican twice. And that vested him as a bona fide Republican while he had just left his seat as the Democrat chair. So I was like, well, that's very interesting. I'm going to run for this seat and change those rules. So that's what I did. So I like
the way you operate. Like you're like, this is a problem. Let me come in and disrupt it.
Yeah.
And nothing stops you. I love this.
Well, it's always making friends. I'm always making friends. So it's, I got my real estate license and then I ran for that office and won. I was unopposed. And that was good. It was a good 4 years. We had a gubernatorial race during that 4 years. And I was very, very lucky to have been partnered with a man here. He did not win. I'm very glad he did not win. At the time, we were not glad, but I'm glad he did not win governor. Our Governor Bill Lee, he's good at being governor. But the gentleman that I had, hitched my wagon to ended up being the president of the UT systems across the entire state of Tennessee. And he has influence over our education system and has revamped our entire university education system in just the few short years that he's been there. And he's made more of an impact and influence on the future than he ever could have as governor. So that was happy. I did change the rule on what vested and vetted Republican meant. It took me the entire 4-year term to accomplish that, only to find out that if you have enough money, per the usual, then the chairman of the party can just say, meh, you can put your name on the ballot anyway. Totally fine. Those are the rules we play by, rules that people don't understand. So I changed the rule. There's still always a loophole through the rule, but I did enjoy that 4 years as a state executive committee woman. I traveled all 95 states in Tennessee twice at least, and got to present that rule to the local parties as well as make good real estate connections, which served me in my real estate career because now I have somebody in every single county that I can call and refer business to, which was very lucrative. So again, would I do it all over again? Absolutely. Absolutely. People ask that all the time. Why would you put yourself through that? Well, my real estate business has been quite successful due to those things. So you take the good with the bad.
So there it is for the politics, is that the politicking built up your real estate business.
Absolutely.
Similar to how Pelosi's politicking built up her portfolio of stock markets.
Let me tell you, if I ever had the opportunity to spend time with Nancy Pelosi, people are so emotional about politics, and they're very emotional about business, and that's not emotional. And that's what's in this book. Business is business. Take your emotion out of business. I would take every opportunity to learn from that woman that I could.
Oh
Doesn't matter what party you belong to. She is a female leader.
She is a trailblazer for women. I cannot disagree with that. And unlike Hillary, I don't think she's murdered anybody. I got questions about Hillary.
Poor Hillary Clinton. She just gets shit on all the time. God bless her.
I know. I mean, in the 90s, I was all about that. You lose a little respect when you're willing to stay in a marriage for politics. That's all for me on her. But yes, Nancy has blazed her trail for women, and it's not like men weren't doing what she did before. Men just hate it more when she does it.
Oh, women hate her. That's what makes me so sad. Women hate her. And I'm like, listen, honey, listen, the best advice I can give you is if you find a woman is that successful at being that manipulative and that calm and that directed and that focused and that wealthy, you better find an apple cart to get into and find her wagon and hitch to it. You better do it tomorrow. I would take Nancy Pelosi's advice any day of the week. She ever wanted, Nancy, call me. I need some referrals for this book. So
yeah, I would listen to her.
We need some powerful women to endorse this book.
We do, but we need powerful women that are changing the game like you are, where you're coming in and saying these are the wrong rules, not powerful women that come in and just use the rules the same way the men have.
Yeah,
you talk about business.
Men have to be in part of what they do.
I get it.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the business and the emotions, for me, how do you not feel a little bit emotional about your own country? How do you not feel a little bit invested in your country? And when we think about, the shenanigans that went on during the pandemic of dumping stocks and making money on the backs of American people, that's where Pelosi kind of loses me. But I'll always keep that door open for a trailblazing woman, despite all their faults. The men have them too. The men usually just have private planes on an island somewhere with Jeffrey. But I digress. Enough about me.
Please. If they don't publish that blacklist soon,
They won't.
on.
They won't.
Come on. Well, we all know who's on it. It doesn't matter. And that's again the situation. I mean, here's the deal. I'm not a Nancy Pelosi fan. Wouldn't vote for her if you wouldn't do it. But she did it in public. The men go behind everybody's backs. They'll step on the back of every American to get where they want to go, and they'll smile and will think they're dapper when they do it. At least she did it in public. I mean, at least she was like, "This is what I'm doing. Have a good day." I don't know. I don't know. Bless her heart. She's old. Hopefully, she'll go soon. That's the Southern way of saying just bless her heart. Oh, I've lost your sound. Can't hear you. I don't think your microphone's connected, darling.
I pressed a button on my microphone and hit mute.
Thank you.
Got me back. All right. So as we wrap up, I could talk to you forever. I hope I actually get to talk to you more. I'd love to grab a cup of coffee with you. Maybe a drink. You sound like you'd be really fun over a drink. Maybe at Hooters. They've got owls there.
Well, I'm on keto, so the red wine's out.
Fair enough.
Keto.
I own a CrossFit gym. I got you with the keto. We'll go do some tequila and water and have a little, some lime. We'll have a great time. Last three questions.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Okay.
No, you were going to say something.
Well, I still have one more political career after that, but that's okay.
Tell us. What's the next career?
After that, so I left the state executive committee, right, and went to local politics. I was a local county commissioner here in my hometown, and made the only all-red county in the state of Tennessee. So I took out a 32-year Democrat county commission, and she was my cousin for 4 years. Yeah, get that.
Now I know why you have some reverence for Nancy Pelosi. You're over here taking out family members too.
Yeah, did that for 4 years and loved it. I learned a lot. Local politics are brutal, and it is fascinating. Every level of politics are actually.
And local politics makes such a huge difference for the people that live there, yet we only pay attention to national politics. So kudos for you to basically living my childhood dream. Like, I wanted to be president, but
right.
I had a history teacher who told me that women's feet are small to fit behind a sink. And that's why I wanted to major in history, because all my history teachers were coaches, right? And no one was actually teaching real history. I got to my freshman year of college and I was like, shit, I don't even know what this question's asking. I've been filling in bubbles on multiple choice and making posters. So running for office and being able to wield power, I don't have a type A personality. So that part's probably not for me. But thank you for being that trailblazer for women. And
It's
I
fun.
look forward to, I look forward to reading your book about what is the politically incorrect guide to this, because for someone that's been in politics and still to be funny and real and on my podcast is great. So thank you so much for joining
Absolutely.
me today and
Absolutely.
gracing me with all these stories. So I have three questions I always wrap up with, and I can't wait for this one. What is your superpower?
My superpower is never getting mad. I never get mad. I just get even. And that is a superpower.
Getting even is your superpower. Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say that everybody that can control their emotional response to something has a superpower, because there is always a time and a place. Always a time and a place. And so if somebody does something you don't like, just like, oh, okay. And
So
then return
Southern of you. So Southern of you.
Southern. Oh, okay. Bless it.
What's your purpose?
My purpose is to educate and bring financial and fiscal responsibility and education to women and young people in general, especially people who ended up in a situation like me. And that includes boys now too. I mean, we're in a situation in the country where we have single parent households and have had that going on for a good 20 years. We've seen the ramifications of that. We've seen the ramifications of not having leadership in the home. We've seen the ramifications of not understanding financial and fiscal responsibility at home, and not understanding how to conduct yourself properly to get to where you need to go to give what I know deep down inside everybody wants to give, and that's freedom. Freedom from being controlled by a government, by a family member, by a business, by a boss, whatever. They want freedom, and the way to get through that is financial education and financial freedom. And this book is about that. It's like, here's how to get there, even if you don't want to do it politically correct. Here's how you're going to get there, and let me help you get there. It's a big, yeah.
I imagine if more and more Americans were educated on their finances and had that freedom, that perhaps our government would have to follow suit.
Exactly.
It's like, right. Like we're all contributing to the same system. So, people's eyes don't blink when billions of dollars go out the door anymore, or really trillions. Like, how are we not blinking at this?
Yeah.
Perhaps if we did get excited about our own P&L sheets and understood how that freedom, we might demand more of that from our government.
Yeah, freedom brings success. Money is success. Money is freedom, and money is a tool. And the more of that you make, the more decisions you make for yourself, and the easier your life becomes. And it's something that money is a result of success. So if you're not successful in what you're doing, you have no freedom.
Yeah, then I think of people that have all the money in the world and they don't know who they are. And so they also don't have freedom.
Yeah.
Last question. What's next for you?
Great question. So what's next for me is I was a decade-long politician. I've now been in real estate. I'm coming up on that decade, which gives me that 10,000 hour mastery level. I mean, once you spend 10,000 hours doing something, you're a true master at it. So I've been doing that. I'm a master realtor. I sell over 100 homes a year by myself, created an entire efficiency program for that. I sell that program. And this book is being published in April, and we will be doing book tours. We will be doing podcast episodes like this. We will be doing a lot of events. We will be putting together a master class on what this book holds. So you can go to unauthorizedsuccess.com and sign up for the coming soons. We'll let you know when it's coming to be published, but you can sign up for all that information today. But that's the next step, is taking that level of dedication and focus and putting it now toward other people's success. If you are not helping other people grow, you are missing an opportunity to really feel whole. So that's the next step.
I'm in the personal growth business, so that is very true. And I love that you share that giving back. I have is the same when we were the same age. So I've got the same decades of experience, and mine has been in developing humans from high school to, right? Yes, I ran businesses, but like businesses with employees. So really developing, and I was terrible at developing staff when I started. So that actually,
if you were profitable every month, you had to have good staff.
I had great staff. I was terrible at being a boss because I'd never been one. So, you say success is a terrible teacher. I said that right. And failure is a great teacher. So I do see how important that failure was for me. Like my staff hated me. And that is right. Like what? Who would hate me? But, they should have probably loved me because they all got new jobs because I started a business. Like I was like, I'm a job creator, damn it.
Yeah.
Those, right. 2008. And that was like, maybe that was the 2012 election, the whole job creator thing. But I learned a lot there about, and where I started was by hiring a coach for myself. And then I ended up hiring a coach for my staff. And that also let me see, I have everything I've ever wanted except the marriage I wanted. And so fast forward, if you can manage 150 volunteers, I had a nonprofit that I ran, then you're an amazing people developer because those people don't even get paid to come in and to support your business development and marketing needs. So my giving back in the people development, we'll talk offline and love to connect with you and how I could even support, because I think it's so important to be able to support others once I'm not going to say arrived, but have had that, 10,000 hours of experience in real estate. And I love the unauthorized success. Not only were you not authorized at 15 to be successful, it may feel like, but you've had people around you that were telling you that you didn't belong there.
Oh yeah, you still get told that. I'm 41. I'm like, well, there you go. I thought I earned a seat at this table. I guess I'm just gonna have to turn the table over and build a new one. Thank you so much. So, let me ask you this. Yeah, you said I had a question for you. Gosh darn it! You said that you managed 150 volunteers and you didn't have the marriage you wanted. Did you get that?
So that was separate. So when I sold my business and I left, and then I ran a nonprofit and had the volunteers, and now I live with a man who, marriage is probably in the future, but
I love that for you.
Yeah. And what's so fun about how that happened, I ripped the Band-Aid. I went to New York. I did the thing that you talked about after I got divorced. Maybe I should have done Hawaii or Europe. I don't know, but I did New York. I figured if I could make it there after losing my business and I didn't lose it, I sold it, but it felt like a baby. I love your advice. Business is not impersonal and not emotional. I learned that lesson. Again, failures are good teachers. And he lived on the same block as that nonprofit I talked about. We never met. It wasn't until I had a different job and was walking down that street and through happenstance. And we met in January 2020, pandemic hits. That summer, we did an outdoor party, like the first time that we'd seen people. All of his friends were my bar friends. So I say bar friends because there was I didn't know that and he's like, well, I never went to that bar because I have a dog, and I would take him to the other bars where we would hang out. Because Hoboken, which is across the Hudson from New York, very 1.2 square mile. Like you're going to have people in common. And if you don't, you're dating a psychopath. I dated that guy too. No one had ever heard of him. I'm like, he's lived here 12 years. Like I know half this block. How do people not know him? Psychopath. But we just never had crossed paths. And when my bar friends is because I would go to the bar after working at this nonprofit, and I would eat my meal and I would have my glass of old fashioned. The gym was across the street.
We are so alike. This is weird.
I told you, you're the type A version of me. This is what I would look like if I was really going for it. And I would go. And so I made people talk to me at the bar, and so I would end up making friends. Like I use that term loosely. It's not like they were, people I texted and hung out with, but I, was friends with the bartenders as well. We kept them alive during the pandemic. We still ate there once a week. But funny enough, and it was timing. You get divorced, you got to heal, you got to get your own shit together. And I knew that I wanted to, after I'd had that coach, that I wanted to coach myself and support others. But you don't do that to heal yourself. Me coaching someone else is not about healing my journey. It's not about, well, this is how I did it, here's how you do it. That's teaching. That's what you're doing. For me, being able to develop people in their own natural strengths was really about using that skill of listening. That's why I had bar friends. Because I would
So,
listen.
funny story. My now live-in fiance and I actually knew each other in college and didn't know it either. He was on the rowing team at UT, and my little sister was on the rowing team at UT, both D1 athletes. I would go see my sister at Crew, and they were the same age and the same years, same team. Never saw him, never met him, never heard his name. I was just there to support my sister, and I would leave. And then fast forward 20 years later, he's divorced, I'm divorced. He's my chiropractor during COVID. That's how we met. And
now, does he look like your ex-husband? Because the downside of Dan, it's the only downside. He's a thinner, better looking version of my ex-husband. But like, there are sometimes I'll see him when he's sleeping and I'm like, oh God.
No, my ex-husband is Australian, and no, they are literally
Good
nothing
for
like
you.
Joe. Yeah, Joe's 6'4", 250, full head of gorgeous hair, good looking man, outdoorsy beard, all like, yeah, I landed.
Does he golf? We need a golf partner. Does he golf?
No. We go to Top Golf once a month if you ever want to join us there.
Love this. So as we wrap up today, I'm going to give you the last word. Last piece of advice that you want to give our listeners.
That's a good one. Last piece of advice I want to give anybody is whatever it is that you have your sights set on, go do it. End of story.